we have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
Bangladesh has crossed a line no one imagined, a death sentence for Sheikh Hasina in absentia, the woman who ruled for over 15 years and kept extremism in check. A nation that once stood as a beacon of economic growth and political stability is now convulsing with protests, Islamist resurgence, and communal unrest. And now the crisis reaches India. Sheikh Hasina is on Indian soil. With an extradition treaty linking Dhaka and New Delhi, the stakes are enormous. Does India give her up or protect her, knowing that the decision will shape the future of South Asia's political landscape for years to come? Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Bangladesh is living through the most volatile moment since its birth in 1971. A nation once defined by its fight against extremism and its rapid economic rise is now staring at a political earthquake. The death sentence handed to former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and former Home Minister Assaduzzahman Khan Kamal. But to understand how Bangladesh reached this moment, we must return to the spark that lit the fire. The student uprising that spiraled into a national revolt and tore through the country's political foundation. What began as a protest over job quota discrimination, a technical bureaucratic issue, erupted into a generational war against Hasina's governance. Students flooded the streets in Dhaka, Chittagong, Rajshahi, and Sylhet. Within days, campuses turned into conflict zones. As clashes intensified, several young protesters were killed, deaths that transformed an economic grievance into a moral revolt. Bangladesh, a nation with a history of uprisings, had reached its breaking point. Hasina's government responded the only way it knew, with force. Tear gas blanketed university gates, armored vehicles rolled through Dhaka's busiest roads, and in scenes that shocked the region, police opened live fire on campuses. Photos of students with bullet wounds, teenagers beaten and dragged away, spread faster than the government could control. The moral authority of Hasina, once credited with ending decades of instability, collapsed almost overnight.
If you look at the legality of the verdict, there is no shortage of evidence on the internet that there was a massive amount of killing that took place during those 36 days of July and August in Bangladesh. The only issue is whether those killings were directed by Sheikh Hasina herself and how much proof that we can have regarding that. And fortunately, in this case, for the prosecution, there were some evidences, including the gentleman, the former police chief, who became a state witness and turned against her boss, his boss, which is Sheikh Hasina, and gave the witness that he received orders from her. So that was one. You have a live state witness here, like a special witness who's testifying against his political leader.
But street protests alone cannot topple a leader as entrenched as Sheikh Hasina. Her political machinery, her bureaucracy, and above all, her security establishment had kept her in power for 15 years. What changed was the silence and then the fracture inside Bangladesh's security system. As protests intensified, senior officers in key units appeared to pull back. Decisions that once required minutes suddenly took hours. Orders went unanswered. Some insiders insist this wasn't simple hesitation, it was influence. And that influence, many claim, came from abroad. For years, Washington, headed by Biden administration at that time, was uneasy with Hasina's tilt toward Beijing, from Chinese-funded mega projects to military cooperation. But the real flashpoint was St. Martin's Island, a small coral island in the Bay of Bengal with massive strategic weight. The US wanted access. Hasina refused. Not once, not twice, every time. St. Martin's offers oversight of India's eastern coast, the Myanmar Naval Theatre, and the maritime doorway into the Malacca Strait, which carries 1/3 of global trade. Any power operating from it commands the Bay of Bengal. Hasina knew it, India knew it, China knew it, and reportedly, the US knew she would never hand it over. When the coup unfolded, Washington's rapid alignment with the new interim government raised eyebrows. Statements that usually took days appeared within hours. Diplomats who once struggled to access Dhaka's top brass were suddenly welcome guests. America denied involvement, but in Bangladesh, denial only deepened suspicion. And into that political vacuum stepped forces many believed were buried. Jamaat-e-Islami, once dismantled and barred under Hasina, resurfaced with stunning speed. Its student wing, Shibir, returned to campuses. Posters appeared overnight. Mosques began hosting political sermons. Movements aligned with political Islam sensed opportunity and seized it. The shift wasn't just ideological, it was organizational. Jamaat operatives who had been off the grid for a decade emerged openly. Activists once jailed under Hasina began holding rallies. And with the weakening of law enforcement, these groups were no longer operating in the shadows. They were operating with confidence. In a nation where extremism once cost thousands of civilian lives, this resurgence triggered alarm bells. And history repeated itself. As with every moment of political breakdown in Bangladesh, minorities, especially Hindus, became immediate targets. Within days, temples were desecrated, shops were looted, villages were attacked under the cover of political chaos. Hindus, already down from nearly 30% of Bangladesh's population in 1947 to under 8% today, once again found themselves fleeing their homes. The social fabric Hasina maintained through strict policing was beginning to tear. The tribunal verdict that followed, sentencing Sheikh Hasina to death for crimes against humanity, came at a moment when Bangladesh was already off balance. Critics argue the trial was fast-tracked, shaped more by the politics of the new order than by evidence. Many view it as an attempt to erase Hasina's legacy, to portray her not as a former leader but as a pariah. In a publicly released statement, Hasina said that the verdict announced against her was biased and politically motivated.
Everyone knew this sentence was predetermined. These trials were rushed. I mean, it's a historic trial, and they finished it in 2 months, 3 months. This is an unelected, unconstitutional, undemocratic government. They amended the laws, which can't be done without parliament, to enable this trial. She was not allowed to send her own defense attorneys. It's a complete mockery of justice.
During the court proceedings, one allegation stood out for its sheer contradiction. The tribunal claimed that the Awami League government under Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had conspired with the neighboring country to abolish our glorious army by forming the Mukti Bahini. The question is, what was that glorious army? Historically, the army in question was Pakistan Army's Eastern Command, operating under West Pakistan's authority in 1971. To accuse Bangladesh's founding leadership of abolishing an occupying army, the very force the independence movement was fighting, is not just revisionist, it is oxymoronic.
The then Awami League government led by Sheikh Mujibur Rahman planned in connivance with a neighboring country to weaken and abolish our glorious army and thus formed Rakhi Bahini, an armed organized parallel to the army.
And now the crisis arrives at India's doorstep. Hasina is on Indian soil. India and Bangladesh share an extradition treaty that mandates cooperation, except in cases where charges are political or where the accused faces persecution, unfair trial, or the death penalty itself. In Hasina's case, all these conditions apply. India's legal framework gives New Delhi the right to deny extradition, but geopolitics rarely obey legal logic. For over a decade, Hasina was India's most reliable partner in South Asia. She dismantled terror networks operating against India, cracked down on ISI-linked groups, curbed infiltration, and strengthened regional connectivity. Her government helped India secure the northeast, stabilize cross-border trade, and reduce extremist influence along the border. If India hands her back, it would be seen as delivering a long-time ally into the hands of a system now influenced by Islamist blocs and anti-India factions. It would be viewed as a moral retreat and a strategic blunder. And it would signal to every political actor in the region that India abandons its partners when political tides change.
But over and above all that, the extradition treaty that India has with Bangladesh also has a clause that there shall be no extradition for political reasons. Now, if you can interpret the Hasina's case as a political one, because it clearly, as she has said, it's a result of a vendetta. It's whatever it is that it was all fixed, etc. And there is some truth in that, because I've been talking to people earlier, and they said that she will definitely be given a death sentence because it has already been arranged. So I think these are the kind of things that have been happening. Now, if they wish to go on the rhetorical high road, they are welcome to do so. India will act according to the legal procedures.
If Sheikh Hasina had fled to Saudi Arabia or the UAE, Dhaka would have virtually no leverage. Neither Riyadh nor Abu Dhabi has an extradition treaty with Bangladesh, and both states follow a political, not legal, model of extradition. These Gulf monarchies regularly refuse to hand over political figures, especially former heads of government facing charges viewed internationally as partisan or retaliatory. Unlike India, they cannot be pressured through border diplomacy, trade interdependence, or regional security concerns. Dhaka might protest, but it would carry no weight. The balance of power in such a scenario heavily favors the Gulf. In fact, both Saudi Arabia and the UAE have a long history of quietly hosting political exiles from Pakistan, Egypt, and even other Gulf states, shielding them under the banner of humanitarian protection or royal discretion. With Sheikh Hasina now sentenced to death by a tribunal already criticized for speed and bias, the Gulf would treat her case as a political prosecution, not a criminal one. If she landed there, she would be effectively untouchable, beyond the reach of Dhaka's new rulers, beyond international pressure, and far safer than she is on Indian soil. But sheltering Hasina carries its own risks. The new interim government in Dhaka could interpret it as active interference, as was stated in the press release put out by the Foreign Ministry. Relations may deteriorate rapidly. Other powers, China, Turkey, even Pakistan, would rush to fill the diplomatic vacuum. Bangladesh's strategic alignment could shift overnight, transforming a friendly neighbor into a contested geopolitical arena. Pakistan, meanwhile, has sensed an opening it hasn't had in decades. ISI-linked networks online openly celebrated Hasina's downfall, a leader they considered responsible for dismantling Jamaat-e-Islami, their ideological partner. Analysts also point to political intermediaries with Pakistani links who reappeared in Dhaka soon after the coup, attempting to rebuild influence Pakistan lost under Hasina. What's more alarming is intelligence chatter indicating that Lashkar-e-Taiba chief Hafiz Saeed, mastermind of 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, has instructed his operatives to once again look toward Bangladesh as a staging ground. Reports claim a close aide has already moved into the country, hoping to tap into the chaos and the newly unlocked networks of Jamaat-linked groups in Bangladesh. Now, Dhaka, in other words, is becoming attractive turf again for Pakistan-backed outfits.
We also know that the leaders of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba are openly saying that they are sending their teams to Bangladesh and they are working with Bangladesh for the radicalization of that society and also for walking into India from there. So I think the events in Bangladesh are certainly pointing in every which way that Pakistan is trying to embed themselves into Bangladesh society, in the army, in the on the question of radicalization, on the question of doing projects in places like Lal Monirhat, and they're absolutely clear that they want a situation that existed prior to 1971.
Through all of this, one tragedy remains constant: the students who died in last year's protests. Their deaths, initially symbol of nation's pain, have now been weaponized by every political faction. Their memory, instead of inspiring reform, has become leverage, a convenient tool for scoring political victories. For India, the decision on Hasina is not only about one leader. It is about the future of Bangladesh and the stability of the entire eastern subcontinent. A weakened Dhaka opens doors to radicalism, to foreign interference, to strategic competition, and to the erosion of India's security perimeter. India must now choose: does it protect a leader who stood with New Delhi through thick and thin? Or does it prioritize short-term diplomatic neutrality, risking the rise of forces hostile to India's interests? In a letter to the Indian authorities, Bangladesh Foreign Ministry cited the extradition agreement signed in 2013 between the two countries and said it was an obligatory responsibility for India to facilitate Hasina's return. Under this agreement, Bangladesh handed over separatist leader Anup Chetia to India in November 2015. Hours after the verdict, India's Ministry of External Affairs said it will engage constructively with all stakeholders considering peace, democracy, and stability in the neighboring country. Whatever choice New Delhi makes will shape not just bilateral relations, but the future of South Asia's political architecture. Protecting Hasina could alienate Dhaka's new rulers. Abandoning her could embolden extremist factions and foreign adversaries. The stakes are higher than they appear, and time is running out. As Sheikh Hasina waits, isolated, hunted, condemned, a single truth hangs over every corridor of power in South Asia. Her death sentence may not calm Bangladesh. It may ignite forces far more dangerous than the ones that drove her out. Thank you for watching Statecraft.